Welcome. Welcome to the real Joseph Latman. I am Joseph Latman. Happy Wednesday to you guys. Happy March 1st. We already made it to March, man. The winter has flown by. Not complaining though, although it was a very mild winter where I live. So probably the most mild winter I can ever imagine. So I'm not complaining, but happy March 1st. We made it to March. Happy Wednesday. Almost here to springtime now. Feels like spring outside today. I was outside earlier for a while and 70 degrees today, almost sunny. And I've had a lot of those days earlier this year, especially in February. So uh, can't complain. God is good. I'm looking forward to this Cavs game tonight versus Celtics. Should be a good one on the road on ESPN. National televised game for the Cavs. We'll see what happens. Celtics pretty good on the road too, in their in the Garden. So that's gonna be a tough game. Trying to think anything else going on in the sports world. Got a lot of Browns talk going on. Me and my man Mike Antonis, the crew will be talking about that pretty soon. Um, yeah, I got the combine coming up this weekend as well. Looking forward to watching that. Watching the guys run the 40 times and all that. So, but that's not why I'm here today. Today, I'm here to discuss a certain topic, like always, related to something I've experienced. In today's topic, I'm talking about putting too much pressure on yourself and how putting too much pressure on yourself obviously can lead to more stress, more anxiety. If you're depressed, can further your depression. Can do a lot of things, right? And this is something that I've experienced even up until recently. And I figured a lot of things out about myself, guys, in the last couple months. Really going, just working on myself a lot more. Um, really examining a lot of things because I had a lot of challenges, I guess you could say, within the last couple 2 3 months. Things that have really pushed me more, took me out of my comfort zone. Some things were out of my control that I had to learn to work through. And really, all part of life, but things that really just take the next steps in my journey. And so I've learned a lot of things about myself, and I've learned had a lot of clarity about a lot of things, in my life, a lot of things I thought about for a long time, and really just concluded too where a lot of that stress and pressure that you could feel, where it really comes from. And I think a lot of it too is with social media nowadays and the pressure from there. I think the pressure from just it could be pressure from people around you in your own house, in your family, your friends. I'm just giving examples at the work job, at the workspace, on your job. Um, yeah, pressure comes from all sorts of angles, right? We feel this pressure because we feel like uh, we have to constantly fight and earn for everything, right? And that's what society tells us. We have to fight, fight, fight. We got to earn everything. Everything's got to be perfect. We got to be perfect people. We got to push. We got to push. Everything's got to be perfect, right? And a lot of people fall into that. And I see a lot of people online. You see a lot of people like on the internet that talk about their lives and share their just regular people that share their lives, especially people my age. And a lot of times you you see them they constantly share that they're always stressed out by a lot of things. They feel like they have this perfect job, this perfect career. Everything's gonna be perfect, perfect relationships, perfect financially. Everything's gonna be perfect, and we gotta have all it. But they're just putting a lot of pressure on themselves. And when you constantly sit all day and scroll on the internet, on whatever Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you use, Snapchat, YouTube. Well, if you constantly sit and listen to that stuff all the time, it's pressure. It puts pressure on you, and because you subconsciously start to think, "Gee, this is how I need to be living my life. Gee, what am I doing wrong?" And you start to question yourself. And when you start to question yourself, you put more pressure on yourself, which in turn can lead to more anxiety, more of the symptoms, getting down on yourself. Night before you don't, you're second guessing yourself because certain things are happening in your life. You think it's because of you, and sometimes maybe we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, correct ourselves. But what I'm really getting at though is it can make you second guess yourself and make you question who you are, and it's totally not the truth. It totally doesn't relate to you. It's not you. And really, a lot of times you are, if you especially belong to God, you're right where you need to be. Just because things don't happen when we want them, how we want them to. Doesn't mean we're behind or they're not going to happen or there's nothing there. And a lot of people give up, and a lot of people give up on a lot of things in life because due to that pressure, and they submit and they fold. And a lot of times when that happens, and it's funny, I listened to anybody follows me on Facebook or friends me over there. I posted a sermon from Tony Evans yesterday, talking about taking the risk of faith, right? And he talks about in the sermon, he talks about I'm trying to think here, making sure I get my point across. Oh, he talks about a lot of times people miss out on their calling, on their ultimate calling, what God wants them to do, the glory and all the things He has in store for them because they're not paying attention to God, number one, but also number two, they get caught up in the outside voices. They take their focus off God and they start focusing on the world and they start focusing on things like that, social media, things like maybe with people around you, maybe people you love, people that you care about, but maybe they're giving you bad advice and trying to push you in a different direction, trying to force you into something that you don't really feel comfortable doing, but do out of pressure and you feel like you have to do it, you do it. But a lot of times you can miss your calling with God, especially if you're not in tune with God. You're basically putting God on the back burner and putting other things first in front of Him. And a lot of times we could do this subconsciously as well. And like I said, today's world, society, and social media, this is a result of the pressure. And so why there's so much more anxiety and so much more depression and why things linger, right? And that's something I had to figure out for a long time was why are certain things lingering? I was doing a lot of new things recently and I was experiencing a lot of new things, but my anxiety at times, symptom wise, was getting a little worse, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. It was a good thing because I was progressing, but also I had to really make sure I had to kind of take a step back, I guess you could say, and really make sure my focus is on things where it needs to be. Focus on truth and not getting caught up in, what was going on in my life and just in the last couple of months and even in the past and just kind of letting it consume me to where it puts that pressure on me. And you can start to second guess yourself, like I said, and you can start to allow that to uh, control you because what happens, especially too, when you feel like you got to live to this perfectionist mentality or this pressure or this, a lot of times, all that stuff, it can lead to you don't feel like you're good enough, and you can start self punishing yourself. And a lot of people go through that, and that the self punishment goes in many different ways, right? It could be very bad, or just ways mentally. And for me, for a while, it was more just my self punishment was more what I would do to myself was just the pressure I'd put on myself and you know, trying to live up to this perfectionist mentality, and second guessing myself at times, or constantly and thinking if things were happening, was it due to me? Is there something I'm not doing? Do I need to do something? Is God waiting? You just start questioning yourself more and more and more. That's putting pressure on yourself, and then a lot of times people just drag themselves through the mud, man. Like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you just start to wear yourself out because you start to do too much. You get in this mindset of doership. I got to do. I got to do all these things. I got to push, and fight. And you put all this pressure on yourself, man. I've been there, guys. And let me tell you something. The end of that road, it's very tiring. And a lot of times you could put yourself in a worse hole than where you started, because you're not going to meet expectations trying to solve it all on your own. That's really what you're trying to do. And it's that basically, if you listen to my show last week, it's kind of what I talked about a lot was trying to solve everything on your own and not leaving up to God and not trusting God and, you know, trusting that God knows what He's doing, which was the title of my show last week. Go check it out after this one, of course. But great message. And it goes in the hand with this week as well. And when you start doing that self punishment, you start getting low on yourself. You start comparing yourself to other people around you, people your age, or whatever, people you look up to, or just social media, just this false reality. And a lot of what you see on social media isn't reality, guys. It's not. I mean, it's anybody can put anything out there, edited, scripted, and people believe it nowadays. Not saying all of it is, but a lot of what you see is not reality. It's not the truth. It's not the real world. Because when I started, getting out of my journey the last 7, 8 years and coming out with this podcast, really connecting with people, maybe people I never really knew, people I kind of knew but never really knew them, people that I really knew well. I just started to get to know people more through this. And when you start to find out is things aren't what you perceive them to be, but a lot of times people are really just going through the same stuff, no matter what this person may look better than that person or all this stuff. What I've learned is a lot of people go through the same similar struggles, and a lot of people you think that have it, they're really doing it, are really in their heart at the bottom, and internally they're at the bottom, and they're just in a low spot, and you see this all the time. But social media puts out this false image, the world puts out this false image, and puts out these standards and all this pressure, um, and a lot of people buy into it now, and they think that's how they have to live up to it. And another thing, like too, what Tony Evans said in the sermon I listened to yesterday was not just missing out on a lot of things, but just yeah, I mean, you can really, you can really delay yourself. Like a lot of people, another thing we see now, you hear nowadays, is got to wait for the right time. You got to wait for the right time. I got to make sure I'm here to do certain things or have certain things, to take steps, to take but it's never. If you listen to all this stuff online, it never involves God. Doesn't say God's timing. Doesn't say what God has to say on the matter. Because number one, nothing's ever going to be perfect in life because we're flawed as human beings. The only person that's perfect was Jesus Christ. Number two, uh, the one thing I've learned, my second point is if people always think about the right time. That was me for a long time with this podcast. I mentioned this last week. Yeah, I kept putting it off. Like, and people would ask me, "Hey, when's it coming?" "Oh, it's coming." "No, don't worry, I'm working on it." I don't want to work on nothing. All right, there wasn't no podcast coming, but I had the idea, but it wasn't really put into action. There was no action behind it. There was no real like, okay, time to do it, right? And so, one thing I learned though, a lot of times when I try to say, for me personally, when I certain things in my life that I try to say, I'm gonna wait for when I feel right about it, the right time. It's usually God leads me to it when I least expected it and when I thought I wasn't prepared. Same thing with this podcast. Was, for example, if you would have told me before, like I said last week, on April 2nd of last year, when my first episode, when I really started this, if you would have told me a week prior that, hey, you're going to do a podcast next week, you're going to start it next week. Maybe if you would have told me 2 days before, hey, you're going to start a podcast next week, I would have said, yeah, you're crazy. All right. Uh, and I would have made an excuse. I would have said, you know what, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm gonna wait for the right time. And God said, no, no, dude, no. The right time is now. And He made it very clear to me in a very short time, within a week, that it wasn't my timing. I thought I wasn't ready, but God showed me, no, you are ready because I said you're ready. I wouldn't allow this to you. I would be leading you to do this right now if I didn't think you were ready. And so I say it's time because it's in my will. So go do it. Right. And I did it. And it was one of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life. But also, it proved to me that I was ready. There is no right time. And a lot of times it's just our own imaginations just playing, games on us. We make things that are really simple more complicated than they really need to be. And I've done a lot of things in my life since then, guys, within the last year where I used that same mindset. Maybe there was times with some things I was still kind of delayed a little bit because I was new to me, and it's a little different, but in a good way. But it's things that challenge me. But I still made sure I prayed about it, prayed about certain things, and God led me to the right time. And it's a great feeling when you do that because you have no regrets about anything, and you just leave it in His hands, right? You just leave it to hit you. God will call you, and this is something else Tony said in the sermon yesterday. God will call you to do things, and sometimes you got to take a risk, got to take a leap of faith, and just go for it, and just let it out to whatever or whoever or whatever it is. All right, and so I've experienced a lot of that in the last year, and some things, I went for it, and I just left it in God's hands. It can go good or bad, but I just make sure you stay obedient to Him, do what he's calling you to do, and he's got it from there. That's all you can do. Now, it is hard when you leave it to him. It is challenging. It's a faith test, right? And that's where a lot of times it's good to. That's why go back to my point earlier about your focus. It's very key to keep your focus on where it needs to be, because you can get, if you start getting off track, take your focus elsewhere, you can start to get down about certain things. You can start to question yourself and think it's you, and start to kind of just start to get really, you can get depressed, really. I mean, with the pressure nowadays society, you can really get down in a depressed state quick, and really start to have a kind of a low self-esteem, and kind of just your motivation get low. And a lot of it because you're just beating yourself up. You're putting pressure on yourself. But like I said, as long as you know you're doing what God called you to do and you're being obedient to Him, just because certain things are happening, or things maybe are didn't have or coming to fruition in your life, doesn't mean they won't. It's just, remember, like I said earlier with the what I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, the example of the podcast, God's timing is always correct, because God knows more about everything and everyone that's going on around, everything that's going on around you, than you. All right, God does multiple things at one time, and but it's very important though to stay obedient to Him, because like one thing Tony said, and I put this in my post because it's a very key point. God's will be done. Whatever God wants something done, it's going to be done. And God doesn't limit Himself to one person or to one option. He would prefer it to be you. He would prefer it to be, He wants you to do whatever He's calling you to do. But if you put it off and disobey God, He's got some. Don't ever think you're not replaceable. It's like Tony Evans said about his church. He goes, when I come up here in Oak Cliff church he has in Dallas, Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. Yeah. He goes, don't ever think I take it for granted. He goes, I know God can replace me just like that with something really better. Excuse me, with somebody better. Right. So having that mindset, take advantage of your calling, especially if you're being called to something where you can be a blessing to someone else. You're God's blessing you to be a blesser, then you're on the right path. And that could be in many different ways. And that'd be just like with be a preacher, or maybe what I do with pie. It could be in many different ways, right? You can give back. And when you start to tap into that, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. And it's pretty cool, man. And it just but again, staying focused, not letting that pressure get to you. And so I got a video today from my man Dennis, the anxiety guy, where he talks about symptoms and why maybe what's the reasoning for your symptoms, and why are they still lingering, right? And so a lot of what he talks about in this video really goes hand in hand with this topic about putting pressure on yourself, because like I said, I think a lot of times pressure leads to symptoms. And so it can lead to more anxiety, depression, and can just get you down in a hole. And so a lot of he's gonna make 11 points here. It's a quick video, 10-minute video. Really key in here and pay attention, because a lot of what he's about to say, it just makes a lot of great points about certain things maybe that you do every day, daily habits, or a lot of things that are out there in the world to distract us that can cause your anxiety symptoms to linger. Because when your symptoms linger, you get caught up in the symptoms a lot of time, and you lose focus. You lose focus of where your focus should be, and you start focusing back on the negative things and the things that bring you down, the things that really aren't healthy for you, that really haven't got you anywhere, right? And so that's something I've had to learn recently, and I had to be really honest with myself. And I went through some growing trials and just things, but I made it through it all. And each time, the lesson I took from a lot of them was focus. And when your focus is on where it should be and the truth, and you start to allow more, you're more accepting of things, the pressure lessens, the tension lessens, and you really look at things for what they really are. And so, again, my man Dennis, the anxiety guy, go subscribe to my man Dennis, the anxiety. I just put another video today, a couple hours ago. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm sure it's gonna be great, like always. This one came out last week. I was gonna react to it in my last show, but I started ranting and raving on the topic last week, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna hold this off for a different show. I'm glad I did, because this is still goes with this topic today, with pressure and putting pressure on yourself. And so, the title of this video is 11 reasons for your symptoms of anxiety. plus a massive bonus, and where he's going to give you a very good tool to help you as you go through your daily life when these things pop up. And so, I need a drink of water. I'm gonna get to the video. So without further ado, my man Dennis, anxiety guy, and yeah, let's get to it.
Warriors, in today's video, not only am I going to give you the reasons for your anxiety symptoms, but I'm going to give you one line that will stop these anxiety symptoms immediately. Let's go. My friends, welcome to another important video on my channel. Thank you for subscribing to the Anxiety Guy YouTube channel and joining me in this video. Today, I want to go through some of the reasons for your anxiety symptoms because I get so many questions on a daily basis of people saying, why are these symptoms here? But not only that, towards the end of this video, I'm going to share with you one sentence that you will have to tell yourself in the moment these symptoms arise to stop them immediately, my friends. Let's get into the reasons. Reason number one is you're just over worrying. There's too much worry going on in your life. More often than not, with anxiety sufferers, there comes a point where they feel like the worry is natural and just simply the way they live their life. But let me tell you something. Too much worry can perpetuate these anxiety symptoms and bring them on. Next thing you know, you're dealing with not only the mental, but the physical components of anxiety. Second,
I had to stop for a second. That's kind of what I was just talking about. Over worrying, right? And how over worrying can lead to more anxiety, more pressure. But a lot of times, what are you over worrying about? That's what you really got to figure out. If I'm really over worrying about something, really stressing about something, why am I stressing about it? You know, what am I worried about? Is there something I'm afraid of letting go of? You know, a lot of times it could be you're afraid of losing control of certain things, situations. You really don't have control over them, right? And so, or kind of what I said earlier, you take that risk of faith and you really put yourself out there. A lot of times you can start to over worry about it if your focus isn't right. And so, yeah, really ask yourself, if you're over worrying about something, what are you really over worrying about? And why are you over worrying about? Really dive deep into the root cause of the problem rather than trying to just focus on the symptoms all the time and lessening the symptoms and trying to cope with your anxiety. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, what's really going on here, because that's how you're going to really get yourself to ultimate freedom and start to feel better and come to grips with things more. And so, yeah, great point. Oops, great point there.
Tension overload. With anxiety, we don't really realize tension we are placing on our muscles, our joints, on our body. We could be watching a movie and feeling like we're really enjoying the movie, but at the same time, we're adding so much tension to this body that it's becoming so rigid. The cycle of this leads to anxiety symptoms. Next thing you know, we don't even realize the tension caused the anxiety symptoms. Very important for you, my friends. Next, we have exhaustion. You're just simply exhausted. There's too much on your plate, and every single day feels like you're running up a hill. But not only that, you're carrying a tremendous amount of baggage. My friends, when it comes to anxiety, it's very important to understand that maintaining this anxiety will cause a tremendous amount of exhaustion. That means that when you continue to give energy and feeling to these irrational fears, when you continue to work yourself to the bone, when you continue to look back on your life and say, oh my God, why isn't my life the same way it was 10, 20 years ago? This all causes exhaustion that can bring on anxiety.
Now, notice what he said there about exhaustion. And he made that point. He said a lot of people sit there and go, gee, why is my life the same as it used to be? And what happened? And you get so caught up in the past, but also you get caught up in the, like I was talking about earlier, a lot of the pressure. That'll fatigue you. That'll exhaust you very quickly because you're in a constant state of mind of fighting for everything. I got to fight. I got to earn everything. I got to work so hard. I got to, you always hear this about earning. Everything's got to be earned. When a lot of times with God, if you really understand God, if salvation is free, and it says this in Romans 8:32, if he God spared his own son for us, then who's to say he can't freely give us all things? Doesn't mean we don't work, and yes, there are things in life you have to earn and work for, but I think we get caught up in this mindset of everything's got to be this pressure, everything we got to work so hard for everything, and what are you really trying to live up to? And I bring this up because this was me for a long time, and a lot of it goes to this perfectionist mentality, trying to live up to the world standards, or maybe there was maybe there was unhealthy things put on you as a kid that maybe your parents put on you that was passed down from their parents, generational things. I mean, or just society in general, right? And just a lot of this pressure. Again, pressure. That's the key word today. And just trying to fight for everything and trying to earn everything, trying to make everything's gonna be perfect. You're never gonna achieve. You're never gonna that goalpost always moves. You're never gonna attain it. But also, it's you trying to. From what I learned, a lot of times it's just you trying to control everything. You're really not allowing, and you're really not putting your faith in God. And it may not be your fault. And listen, I know some things happen to people in life, and again, this is why I said this was me for a long time, guys. Because I went through very traumatic things. I went through some bad experiences where for a long time I was angry at a lot of people, and I lost trust with a lot of people. It was hard for me to trust people again with certain things because I feel like I had no control over at the time when things were happening to me, especially when I was 15. That as years went on, it's very easy to start losing faith in people. Maybe somebody hurt you, maybe somebody let you down, maybe things didn't work out the way you thought they would, right? And it's very easy to get in a down state of mind, get pissed off for a while, and you can start to try to control. You become a control freak, sometimes subconsciously, and you just get caught up in all this stuff like I've talked about today. And you're just holding yourself back. And a lot of what you really want is right in front of you. You're just putting it off. And it's right there. Like, it's right there. And a lot of times people just put things off because they get so caught up in this, just getting so caught up in all this perfectionism and all this, you got to work, fight and earn and all this just stuff that we hear today. It's garbage because it's just all it leads to is pressure. It's pressure. That's all it is. Pressure, unnecessary pressure you put on yourself. And when these expectations don't get met, then you get down on yourself. And it's a never-ending cycle. It never ends. And so that's where you have to be honest with yourself. That's where you have to start spoiling connecting with God, number one, and what He has to say on the matter, but also, letting go, allowing, and it doesn't mean you're gonna go, do everything in one day. No, things take time. Anything worthwhile takes time, right? And that could be many different things, but anything worthwhile takes time. But also, it lessens the pressure from you too when you just let go. It's like if you're holding on to if you're playing tug of war and you're on one side and there's a group of people on the other. You're pulling against each other. If you let go of that rope, what happens? The other side falls. They fall back. Imagine that other side is the things you fear, your anxiety. What really the things you fear, what causes your anxiety? Excuse me. Imagine that's the other side of the rope. If you let go, it falls. And when it falls, you can walk. It's gone. There's no tension. There's no pressure on you anymore. You're not fighting against it anymore. And you can, when it falls, you can just walk right over it and keep walking past it. Right. And I'm just using an example, theoretically in your mind, but it's the same thing with anxiety. When you let go, and you don't try to put so much pressure on yourself. But also, and I keep reading this, like it's the most important thing. I know I'm rambling, but let me get back to the video. It's why I brought up that sermon earlier with Tony Evans that I listened to yesterday. And again, it's on my Facebook. I'll link it below. Because letting go a lot of times is taking risky steps. Faith, and when you want to go to a lot of times when you reach your calling, it takes when God's calling you to something, when He's leading you to something in your journey, in your life that He's called to have in your life, it's meant to be. A lot of times it takes a risky step of faith, but again, when you take that risky step, you let it go to God, and when you let it go to God, you did the right thing, but also He's got it. It's in His hands. He's got it from there. You just let it go. And the pressure's gone. Because a lot of what you were thinking about doing or stressed about, that's really more of what stresses out the most, the anticipation to something or something. But then once you do it, what happens a lot of times? It's gone. Because you let it go. It's done. Right? It's the same thing. And again, I know he's talking about exhaustion. Just a lot. That's why I was saying a lot of the pressures nowadays, just all from these things we focus on and things that are unnecessary. We feel like we need everything right now. It's like if I'm 23, I got to have everything right now. No, I don't. Everybody's plan is, God has a different plan for everybody. Everybody's timetable for things are different. Doesn't mean it's going to be just as, good or bad if I get it now or later. Because when it does happen, it'll actually be perfect because it's God's timing. God's timing is perfect. And so, again, what are you focusing on? And are you focusing on things that really bring you down and are not healthy for you, or lead you down, unhealthy habits and just keep you more stressed out and just more, waiting and just sitting around doing nothing. I mean, you're not doing anything, but just kind of like there's certain things you want, things you're stressing about, and you're just like, it's not like you're just like, you feel like you're just waiting around for this magic wand to appear. It's not going to appear if your focus isn't right. You're just going to drive yourself crazy. You put more pressure on yourself. And so, yeah, I'm going to get back to the video, but great point there, like always, from Dennis.
We have overstimulation. Guess what? There are too many of you that are spending way too much time on social media, doom scrolling. This is a waste of time, my friends, and it's not helping your anxiety. And next thing you know, these symptoms arise and we don't even make the connection. Instead of doom scrolling, next time choose meditation, for example, because it's so much better for you, my friends. Next reason could simply be because of a lack of a meal. Your blood sugar levels are low and you need to create some balance there. Next, we're talking about sleep debt. You're not sleeping, nor are you sleeping with enough quality behind your sleep patterns, my friends. And when it comes to this, I'm a big believer that until someone is rested and gets the kind of sleep that they need to rejuvenate themselves, there is no technique in the world that can help you. So please prioritize your sleep debt. Next reason for these symptoms of anxiety is you've gone too far outside of your comfort zone. A lot of times we're going, oh, I feel pretty good right now. There's not so much anxiety. I don't feel the symptoms. Let me go even farther. So we take our exposure work to the next level. We tend to exercise frantically. My friends, don't go too far outside of your comfort zone too soon, because you may re traumatize yourself at a subconscious level and exhaust yourself, which will create more anxiety symptoms.
I want to piggyback off that point there because I love that point he just made about stepping too soon, too far out of your comfort zone. And this is again where trust in the process, trust what you're doing, and trust in the journey you're on, but also your faith in God, it comes into play because if you start to step out too soon, you can get a little too off focus and you can start to kind of get a little, I don't want to say greedy, but kind of just um, a little too ambitious, right? You can push the line a little too far. And like you said, you can, a lot of times like with anxiety, you can, when you're doing exposure things, if you go a little too far and it doesn't get met because maybe you went a little too far, you can put more anxiety on yourself, and also that can make you put more pressure on you. Why does that put more pressure on you? Because expectations maybe weren't met how you thought. So now you start to get down on yourself, and now you start to second guess yourself. Now you think you're going backwards, and oh my gosh, I'm never going to get over this. I'm stuck. This is never going to end, and it's just a snowball effect, and it just goes downhill from there, right? Until we refocus, and or a lot of times you just hit a wall, and you say, okay, let me slow down again and refocus. And I've been there many times, guys, especially in the past. I used to, that was me for a long time, a lot. I would put too much and go too far with a lot of things, and a lot of times into doership, and it was mainly just off of just, subconscious pressures, things you'd hear from the outside world, like you're not doing enough, oh my gosh, you've been out of loop for so long, you don't have this yet, you don't have that yet, you're not doing this yet. And you could start to just push too far, and then things don't get met, like you just said. And before you know it, you re-traumatize yourself more and a lot more fears, or you put more stress and pressure on yourself, and you don't help yourself, and you just tire yourself out. And then again, it's a never-ending cycle that just keeps going on until you stop and become aware of it, and focus and refocus and slow down and let go. Remember, like I said earlier with the tug of war, let go of the rope and just trust. Take it literally day by day, step by step. You know, things will happen. Like things are happening. Trust me, it's already in the. And guys, if you're on the journey, God's called you to, and you're doing the right work every day. And yes, it's normal to get impatient. We're human. We have flesh within us. But as long as God's got it in control, it's going to happen eventually. Each day is a step closer, but also each day is an opportunity to focus on one thing, maybe, to help yourself have some type of progress each and every day. Each day is an opportunity. Each day is a blessing. Each day is a great day. And it's all in His hands. Whatever's written is written. His will be done. So focus on that, and not trying to focus on each day. What can I do today to make things happen now? Trying to fight for everything. How can I make myself earn it now? Because that's really what the mindset is. I'm not doing enough. I feel like I'm not doing enough because I'm second guessing myself. So I feel like I got to earn it. I feel like I got to fight more and push myself over the edge, and all that stuff. But no, just taking a mindset that it's happening, and you just keep focusing on what you need to do each and every day, and things just happen. Like I've had that happen in my life. Things just happen. You meet people, you start talking to people that just happen, or you start doing things like this podcast, for instance. That week when it happened, it just happened. Like but I knew, like you just know, like and it happened within a day too. Like anything can happen at any time, and a lot of times when we least expect it. But again, that's God, and that's trusting God and letting go. And when it happens, then you trust. You're ready for it, because if God allows something, it's because He knows you're equipped to handle it. You're ready for it. and he's going to help lead you and guide you. He won't put you in a situation just to abandon you and not help you and just say, yeah, here you go, figure it out. No, he's going to equip you, and it's always for a benefit, not only just for you, but benefits many other things and other people as well, all to advance his kingdom. And so, great point there though by Dennis about not pushing too hard and staying on track. It's the trust. Again, it's all trust and focus. And so, I'll get back to the video.
Next, we're talking about the fear of change. Often, the subconscious mind / inner child will say, oh, there's something going on here. I feel like this person consciously is creating too much change. Therefore, we need a solution to stop this. Remember, to the inner child, change equals death. And if it feels like you're changing too quickly and too soon, then the inner child will start to perpetuate these anxiety symptoms to get you to go back to a state of fight or flight, to be prepared for the next potential threat, my friends. Next, we're talking about trauma carried over to the present. It's very, very possible that your childhood traumas are just being carried on to the present time. If this is the case, we have to begin using reframing practices to eliminate those traumas and re-perceive them at a subconscious level. Then we're talking about suppressed anger. Are you still angry at that person from 15, 20, 30 years ago that may have done something or didn't do something in your eyes? Are you still angry at yourself that you didn't complete something or do something a certain way? There may be some suppressed anger there that is perpetuating these symptoms of anxiety. And it's important to be brutally honest with yourself when it comes to your suppressed anger. Next, and this is sometimes a sign of progress, my friends, right? You get those anxiety symptoms, it may not be a bad thing, right? Because as we've mentioned before, change can perpetuate the anxiety symptoms. So if your symptoms feel like they're getting stronger, sometimes that's a sign of progress. Just keep doing what you intuitively feel like is working for you.
I had to stop because this is a great point, and this is something I had to learn recently on my journey. And because again, like you said, change perpetuates more anxiety because to the inner child, to the subconscious mind, change equals death. Like you said, like man, we're gonna lose control of everything. We can't. No, we can't do this. Our worst fear is gonna happen, right? All those illusions. Your mind thinks the illusions that you think are real are going to play out that you know aren't real. Those fears that have held you back for years, and all that stuff. But uh, yeah, I mean, change will start to perpetuate more anxiety, but it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And over time, the more you slow, a lot. What works for me is in the moments when I feel like that, is just slowing down. When I'm walking outside, when I'm at home, wherever I'm at the store, at the park, on the bike, wherever you are. All right, you're at work. Just slow down. Take a deep. Just start focusing on your breathing. Take your mind elsewhere and stay focused on. I know what this is. Close your eyes. Even I know what this is. I'm on the right path though. And what you say to yourself, the sentences you say to yourself each day, like a sentence you could say to yourself, I'm in a transition, right? I'm transitioning towards where I want to go, towards peace, freedom, happiness. I'm on the right path, right? You just keep reminding yourself that you're on the right path. And just because you're feeling these things, it's not a bad thing. Don't get scared or frantic and say, oh, it's not working. No, it's working. Right? And don't put pressure on yourself because again, when we feel like things don't work, we put pressure on ourselves, we start to question ourselves and everyone around us, we put things off, and oh my gosh, and everything just starts to go downhill, right? And we talked about that earlier, the spiral effect, just the snowball effect of things just flooding out of control due to focusing on the wrong thing and pressure. And so, don't beat yourself up, don't put pressure on yourself, and you know, back to what I said in the beginning of this video when he talked about his first point was over worrying. You let's do the last 2 points before this one here. It was about healing past traumas and suppressed anger. Right. I talked about that my journey for a long time. For years, I was holding on to past traumas and kind of like with health anxiety, for instance, it was thinkings that weren't mine that were passed down to me that I thought were normal. And then I had events happen in my life that added fuel to that fire, right? And so, and then also just anger, suppressed rage and anger, and you could be mad at. You see this a lot of times nowadays with a lot of people. Things maybe didn't work out with somebody, or things didn't. Maybe somebody did mistreat you, and that was me for a while. But maybe things didn't work out, right? And things didn't work out at the time when I went through this when I was 15. That I thought how they were going to go, number one, but also I feel like a lot of people, you know, I was angry with a lot of people. Just leave it at that. But as time went on throughout the years, I carried that, and what that made me do, all it did was just add more stress to me, and it put more pressure on me, and it made me try to fight more. You get like this fighter's mentality. I see a lot of people nowadays, man. They just start running from everything, like literally running away from everything. They'll run away, they'll move away, they'll just run. Things don't feel. I gotta run from everything. You keep running away from things, the problem just gets bigger. Inside of you, the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Before you know it, it's who you are. It controls you now, and you live in this life of misery, fear, anger, sadness, and depression. And you never really. You could try to create happiness. You could try to buy your way to happiness, but happiness is a fleeting thing. You can't buy happiness. You can't buy true inner peace. You can't buy freedom. It comes from God. And if you know God, God commands us to forgive. God commands us to let go. It doesn't mean you excuse what that person did to you, but you have a God, a Lord Savior that's willing to help you heal from that. He doesn't want you carrying that around, and you shouldn't want to carry that around either, because all it does, like Dennis said, just does more damage to you. It just keeps you stuck and holds you back. And like I said earlier about the sermon I talked about, you can start missing out on a lot of things. And God might bring things in your life, people in your life that, it's there. You kind of put it off, and eventually He might take those things away. And down the road, you can look back at it and like, damn, you know what? I wish I would have did more. I wish I would have, maybe went for that a little more. And you can have a lot of regret. And that's what you don't want is regret, because that just makes it worse. And what it does is puts more pressure on you. You're just putting more pressure on yourself. Not only now, but you're setting yourself up for failure. And you're not helping yourself by doing that. And so, again, figuring out what things are really bothering you. What are you over worrying about? And just start to address these things. To start to focus. Like I said, I've been saying, and if I'm repeating myself, that's good, because I'm trying to make a point. Like a key point that I think needs to be said is, it's the letting go. It's the trust and the focus. And if God allows certain things into your life, if things happen in your life, they're there. How are you going to respond to them? If God brings certain things in your life that, or maybe you're waiting for certain things, it's going to happen. They're there, and you just have to trust in Him and His timing, and it takes the pressure off of you. And this is, guys, this is a great reminder for myself, because don't believe me, I have days and I have moments still, and there's some things in my life going on right now that I'm kind of working through, or I don't want to say this. Some things that are, not my control, nothing's my control, but things I really can't, you know, control. Not much more I could do. Like, it's in God's hands. Like everything is, but certain things as well. Like, it's in His hands, and like, why sit around and, beat myself up and try to, geez, there's something I need to do. Do I need to? No. Did everything God called me to do, and just leave it there. trusting him. I'm not putting pressure on myself for things I can't. I don't know what's going on with, you know what I mean? God knows what's going on more than me. And so it's in his hands. But I trust him. I'm not there's no need to try to hurry or, again, try to fight and do all, or push, push, push. No. Just keep doing what I'm doing. God's got me. Period. End of story. And so, but again, don't believe me. There was times where I was putting pressure on myself, even recently, trying to second it. Doesn't help you. And what I concluded each time was what I just said. That why am I doing this? Like, this is unnecessary. It's not what I'm making it out to be in my head. Things are more simple a lot of times than we make them out to be. Yeah, things are just are like it's simple. It doesn't need all this extra stuff thrown on it. And God's in control. He's gonna fight the battle for you. It's in his hands. He doesn't want us to be stressed out about it. Just leave it to him. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna go back to the video. That's it. That's it.
You, my friends, right? So it's not always bad. Now, there is one sentence, one line that will stop these anxiety symptoms immediately in terms of the cycle that continues to make them stronger and stronger and stronger. Are you ready for this line, my friends? Here it is. In the moment you get anxiety symptom in the future, I want you to ask yourself this very question. What else could these anxiety symptoms mean? There it is. What else could these anxiety symptoms mean? Why is this important? Let me tell you why. Because the initial interpretation around anxiety symptom is almost always wrong. So, when you get the idea of what the anxiety symptom could be, don't believe it, right? Because the goal from the inner child is to keep you in a state of fight or flight, to keep you standing guard to the next potential threat. So if you continue to believe the initial interpretation around an anxiety symptom, what's happening is you are being led into the future by your past, but we don't want this. We want to create the future based on the lessons that we learned from the past. This is a total transformation in the anxiety warrior, my friends. So again, the line is this. What else could these anxiety symptoms mean? Ask yourself that question, and then don't go mentally looking for the answer. Stop. And trust your intuition in terms of what it tells you. And when it tells you something, believe it, my friends, because there is no real positive future in you or me or anybody else if we continue to live by the rules coming from the inner child, if we continue to live by these irrational fears. So one more time, what else could these anxiety symptoms mean? My friends, what is the most important point that you gained from this video? I want you to comment below right now, and I promise that I will reply to your comment, or if you have a question based on your symptoms of anxiety. Remember that you are more than anxiety. Please subscribe and share this video with someone or a group in need, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Shout out to my man Dennis, the anxiety guy. Great video like always. Yeah, I mean, a lot of great points there. I'll link that video below. And I like what he said there at the end. The line to ask yourself, what are these symptoms really for? And that's kind of what I talked about a lot today, about putting pressure on yourself and really over worried about things. Like I said earlier, what are you really worried about? What are you focusing on that's stressing you out and keeping you kind of second guessing yourself, putting pressure on yourself, and just adding more anxiety to you, right? And so, great points today from Dennis. Let me know what you guys think on that video. Go over there, subscribe to him, go like that video, comment on it, and if you have any questions or anything, feel free to hit him up online. You can find him on social media. He gets back to you. Go to the website, many programs. Go get the books. You got the Essential Guide to Health Anxiety, and what else we got? Got another one right here. Hold on a second. Okay. F Coping, Start Healing. Great books. Find them on Amazon. Also on audio as well. He has many other books as well. Beyond Anxiety. So go check him out. But great stuff like always. But also, you know, I'll end on a point I made earlier. This is something I've thought about recently, and I was waiting to share it on here because it really goes with this topic today. And I mentioned it earlier, kind of about a lot of this pressure I feel in our society nowadays is we feel like we have to earn everything, literally everything we have to earn. And what that is a perfectionist mentality, if you really think about it. And some of you guys may not understand what I'm saying right now. That's okay. But really I want you to think about this after you log off this or whenever, think about this the rest of your day or whatever. Are you trying to earn everything? Are you trying to fight and work so hard for everything, trying to achieve some standard, some pressure, some perfectionist mentality, some bar, maybe that was placed down to you that you still try to achieve, maybe from social media, from society puts on you, that you felt that puts on us all, but that pressure, right? Are you trying to earn everything? And the reason why I bring this up because if you really know God, if you belong to God, like I said earlier, if you can inherit salvation for free, key word there, inherit. And it's like the verse I said earlier with Romans 8:32. If Christ spared his son for us, who's to say he can't freely give us all things? So, or excuse me, if God spared his son for us, who's to say he can't freely give us all things? So again, if it's all about trusting in God, but finding your calling with God and allowing him to lead you, not you trying to control everything, because really that's what you're trying to fall into, the earn a doership mentality, the perfectionist mentality society says. You're trying to control everything on your own. You're leaving God out of it. And you're really just putting more pressure on yourself. You're never really going to fully achieve the things you want. You're not going to reach your goals and your dreams fully. You might get a taste of some of it, but it's not really what you really want it to be because you leave God out of it. Because God wants what's best for you. God wants to bless you. God wants to help you grow. God wants to, give to you and all. But He also has a purpose and a plan for everything too. That's beyond you a lot of times. It's not just about you. It's about helping other people, or it affects other people. Whatever His purpose and His plan for you, it helps and affects other people, all to advance His kingdom. And so, but He wants to. Everything I have in my life is an inheritance from God. It really is. You know, just podcast, be able to do this. Everything, people in my life, everything. It's all an inheritance from God, right? And I can use an example of Mike Antonace, who's been on this podcast, of Joe Zavarelli's been on this podcast, of Corey Mahalik, who's been on the Sunday Lives. He's been on this podcast. Uh, all those guys I've met within the last 2 years. Like really got to know him in the last about 2 to 3 years. Mike will be about 3 years. But Corey and Joe I've gotten to know in the last 2 years. And uh, all those guys are people God brought into my life. It wasn't like I earned their friendship or, you know, all of them were blessings. I earned two in my life because all of them have helped me and I've helped them in many ways. But all three of those guys have helped me in many ways. And like, especially with this podcast with Mike, because, Mike's helped out a lot with this podcast, held him on. And because Mike's an interesting guy, he's going to start his own podcast eventually soon. Uh, it's just like funny too that like the timing of Mike. And I mentioned this last week when I first time I met Mike. When he came over my house almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years this September, I think it will be, or right around in the summertime. And at the time, I had the idea about doing a podcast or some type of something like this, But I was thinking like, gee, here's some people I can bring on with me, like some people. And then I ended up meeting Mike for the first time. I knew of Mike, like I said, but I finally met Mike. We got to know each other. And my first time I met the guy, I was thinking in my head, after 2 hours of talking to him, this is the guy. This is one of the people I want to bring. This guy would be great for, for a podcast. Like it immediately clicked in my mind, and also too, just a great friend as well. Like a brother now. He is a brother to me now, and I love Mike. I love Corey. I love Joe. All those guys, and Joe has helped me out a lot. And a lot of reasons why this podcast is up today, I'm telling you, it's like I mentioned last, because of Joe Zavarelli with his prayer. Because that man, if you want a powerful prayer, just go ask Joe Zavarelli to pray for you. Let me tell you, things will happen, right? And that's faith. Same thing with Corey. Corey and my dad have a really good relationship, but Corey shares a lot of similar struggles I've been through, and we've helped each other. And there's been times where he had to call me in the middle of the night, and where I've had to call him and talk. Times I've called him and talked to. Just we have each other, right? But all with people, with relationships, I'm using them as an example of people, but also just the show what I'm able to do. Everything in my life, I've earned, or not earned, I've inherited. See, I even caught myself there, but I've it's all an inheritance from God. It's a blessing from God. God led me to each one. Doesn't mean we don't earn things. Don't get me wrong. I hope people aren't misconstrued. I'm really trying to. It really goes into what the world says, what the pressure society says about you have to fight for everything, you have to earn everything. And basically what it is society will tell you you can only have so much as we say you can have. You're not good enough to have this yet. You're not good enough. You're not ready enough to do that yet. You're not there yet. But anything that's worldly doesn't include God. So what does that tell you? And that's really what I'm trying to get at here when I talk about earning and inheriting, because God wants to bless you. God wants you to inherit His blessings. We're saved by His salvation through His grace. Are we saved? Through His blood are we saved? The shedding of His blood, right? Christ already paid the penalty on the cross, and it's free. So it's free. Your freedom, your eternity is free if you accept Him in your heart as your personal Lord and Savior. And so, same thing in life. That's why that verse in Romans 8:32 says that. And so, again, whether it's people, like I've mentioned with those three guys, people God's brought in my life, uh, and a lot of times it's people you least expect. Maybe people you knew a long time ago, or maybe you never knew them. And they somehow come back in your life, or things come back in your life, careers, opportunities, or it always happens like that in a bizarre way, or just God just works everything together, and all things work together for good to them that love God, and to them are called according to His purpose. That's the whole point. It's all for His purpose, and He wants to bless you in the process, and you inherit. But also, He's going to do that. But also, He's going to take care of you. But He also has a bigger purpose in mind that is beyond you. It's bigger than you. And so, again, with all this saying that today, focus on that. Focus on the inheritance. Focus on uh, letting it go to God and trusting Him, and praying to Him to let Him lead you to the next steps. And He will. And he'll start to things will start to show up in your life a lot of times very quickly. Maybe more than we expected, or when we unexpected it, or when we least expected. Excuse me, I can talk. But and that just takes the pressure off, and let's release and just let it go, and not trying to get down on yourself, beat yourself up, and you just keep focusing on what you need to do each and every day. It's like the mama mentality of Kobe Bryant. How can I get better today than I did yesterday? Each day's progress, but you're getting closer to your goal, and that's what it's all about. And so, whoo, man, I'm a little tired from talking, but no, yeah, let me know what you guys think about today's show, this topic. If you can relate to it, leave a comment below. Feel free to email me. You can message me online. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask. I'd love to help in any way. Yeah, go Cavs tonight. Hope everybody enjoys this nice weather today. I know it's going to rain again, so at the end of the week, but it's springtime, so I'm happy. Time to get back out there and do some stuff in my yard, stuff like that. stuff cleaned up. But yeah, make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Um, appreciate you guys for your support. Follow me from the beginning. If you're new here, welcome. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share this content. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Um,